Once was pro strongman Bobby Thompson, and it's good to be back. Welcome to Off the Bar. I want to shoot a harmless plug out there for one of my favorite training methods, as well as one of my favorite partnered companies I've ever worked with, and that's Serious Steel Fitness. And what they specialize in, well, they're going to tell you they only specialize in bands. They make a lot of really cool stuff. That being said, with their bands, what makes them special? One, they're 99.9% latex allergen free. The big bonus for those of you out there that do have a latex allergy, that's kind of a pain in the ass to work around when you're trying to utilize bands and training for accommodating resistance, or for the fact that they're just lightweight and versatile and just as effective on the run a lot of times as a above average hotel gym if you know what you're doing. So real quick, light, easy toss from the bag. They don't pick up any space in the gym bag. You find the right size based on your height, as well as what you're looking to get out of the band. For instance, they have a whole graph and section of their website that's designated to explaining to you with this band, if it starts at this height and expands this many inches, you're getting this many pounds per inch of expansion through the range of motion. Except for the thing about Serious Steel Fitness, their bands are their bands, their studies are their studies for their bands. What is up, guys? Let's talk training splits for clients. Now, one, how do you assign to when and what does what make sense, if any of that made sense at all? But when it comes to assigning a training split to a client, I think it's really important for any fitness consultant, coach, personal trainer, make a decision up front and say, this is what I automatically go to until I find out reason to change that. For me, that's a 4-day training split because most people are not going to be professional athletes, nor is the gym going to consume their entire life. So getting them in the gym 4 out of 7 days a week with a minimum 2 days between training weeks, that can be kind of a difficult thing, but most of them can manage it. Now, let's say you have a super deconditioned client, not just a weight loss client, but like this client is deconditioned. Well, then they may not be able to put in more than 3 days a week at the gym because simply getting to the gym could be so exhausting at the end of a normal and healthy day that it doesn't make sense for them to do. Now, this is not going to be everybody, and generally the people who think they are this deconditioned really aren't, they're just being a wuss. However, if you meet somebody who is, you have to at that point say, okay, we're gonna back you down to 3 days a week, and I'm gonna build you out 5 or 6 days of the week where you have appropriate living habit. And then from there, we can work to 4 days a week. And then maybe an optional 5th day. But I would actually say, hey, stick at 4 days a week and make them go do something social and sport-like. Nothing insane. This is why I don't take a dump on pickleball very much, because I think pickleball is actually a great reintroduction to athletics for a lot of adults who maybe have become deconditioned and a little socially awkward because we all work a lot. Socially awkward. That being said, moving forward, let's say you have a conditioned client who does not have time. Okay, time being, say you have a corporate executive, say they're an emergency responder, and they can only guarantee you 3 days a week. Okay, cool. Well then, one, you're going to train 3 days a week. That's going to be that. And I'm going to make you go walk your dog 2 days a week. I'm going to make you try and step 8 to 10,000 steps a day. Okay, we're going to mitigate backwards like that, even if you're super experienced. Now, let's say everything is perfect and you're super experienced. Yeah, you're going to train 5 days a week most likely, depending on the goal and what's going on. More than likely, though, your training frequency is simply going to be higher because you are more experienced and you're taking care of all the smaller things to help you recover. So the callus is already tough. Now it's just putting a little lotion on there, if that makes sense. He puts lotion on the skin. Yeah, that'd be a lot of people. I don't think I could. Yeah, never mind. We're not going to talk about that. Sorry, that was a interrupting thought. We won't. That's okay. Intrusive thought. Oh, yeah, that was a bad one. That being said, so when you're trying to negotiate how many days a week or a training split for a new client, you can't look at their current experience level and then automatically make a judgment. You have to look at their habits. If I have somebody that has a terribly low experience level, is not deconditioned, think about the guy who smokes way too much and is like late teens to early 20s, but didn't become obese. That guy's severely deconditioned, got a lot of bad habits though. However, somebody like that, once we start fueling them properly, it makes sense for them to be at the gym 5 days a week and for them to have a healthy sport thing they like to do. Because for that person, their body, while deconditioned, is going to do better with having more time spent doing something constructive that doesn't give them time to slip back into old habit just until we build new habit. Now, obviously, if somebody is super old and there are other variables in play, this changes, but this still doesn't change. If you have somebody who is deconditioned but not debilitated, okay, they need to be doing as much as possible, as frequently as possible, okay? I guess subtract more of the as much and add more of the frequently. Essentially, give them things to do for longer spans of time that take more individual thought to keep them from regressing back to the bad habits. These people are my favorite clients, if I'm being honest with you, because they turn into absolute workhorse addicts. And I'm the same way. I have an addictive personality. So if what I'm in on is positive, these people absolutely explode. So those are actually kind of like my favorite clients, even outside the perfectionist clients I have. Won't drop any names. You guys know who you are, and yeah, y'all are a blast. But that being said, so when deciding what training split works, you have to remember your job is to put them on a split that they can complete and have the greatest chance of success with. And that does require looking at their outside life and arranging some outside things there that they can do that are not as stressful as leaving the house and going to the gym. Believe it or not, it's 100% a thing. I'm actually really becoming a huge fan of home gym setups for clients who are kind of morbidly obese or working through some things like that, just because while I know there's a large part of the population that will not work out unless they go somewhere to work out amongst humans who are working out, I have stumbled upon every like third solid client. So I gotta have 3 solid clients, and that takes some time. But every third solid client I have, it seems like, has got a basement gym. And I've got one guy in Mississippi. Let me tell you what he made a comment when we were on a video chat. He's like, man, people are starting to ask me what steroids I'm on. And then he sent, I don't do check-in photos with my clients. If they're performing and they're happy, I can see it on the Instagram reels. I don't ask for shirtless photos and all that weird stuff. But they'll fire them to me. Just kind of like, hey man, I want you to know, like, this is what I look like. Well, he shot me one at 5'10", 220 pounds. And yeah, dude looks like he just started the cycle. It's like, oh shit. Like, you actually look like you're on gear. So there is like this, like every third, and by the way, he's down like 30 or 40 pounds. So like there's like this every third client I meet that they aren't like that. And these guys, however, they're definitely along the lines not of bad habit, but I have to keep them busy or they will hurt themselves. And these are super conditioned clients. I'm throwing everything I can at them. We're being creative. We're having fun. Like, it sucks, but it's creative suckage. They're embracing it, but you almost have to keep them busy within an organized fashion or they're going to blow their own tires off. So that's kind of my thoughts on when it's like selecting a scale, or excuse me, a training split for a client. I call it a training scale sometimes because balancing the scale of on and off, and perfect is in the middle where you are training as many days as you are resting. However, most people want to be a little off kilter, and that's what makes them feel better. So I always try and weigh it more towards training, less towards resting. At least that's what I want it to look like on paper for them. It's kind of like hiding the pill in a piece of cheese for the client. You can tell them you're doing it, and most of them will just be like, oh, okay, cool. I'm like, yeah, because they're getting what they want, and they really don't care. So give it to them and explain it to them if you want, or just don't tell them at all. I like to coach mine, just in case they move on to a new coach. They are aware that there's a different way to do things, and their brain is a little more in tune with hopefully a few things being done slightly more proper than average. That way they move on to a new coach. They at least know what they should expect as a base minimum. Now, that being said, I gotta complain now. That was my little educational post. That felt good. I'm glad I got that out. However, strength sports. Powerlifting is dying, but it stands, in my opinion, as the ultimate collective record of strength that has been executed under any kind of standard. And that's coming from a retired pro strongman. And not just, and by the way, I never actually held a physical pro card. It just had pro status. But that being said, like, that's coming not just whoop-de-doop-de, did it on the weekends. No, made a living from competing and sponsorships and other businesses within the sport. I was a top 10 in world athlete competing at those contests. So I did it. I was a legitimate pro. And having experienced that, it kind of lets you in and see how strict and not strict some of the calls are. There's one situation in particular I won't drop names on, but it still to this day makes me sick to my stomach, and I was not a threat for the contest. This action that occurred for me did not affect anyone else's appearance at that show or competition scoring that day. But it was like, oh yeah, I'll just give you that. And I just remember being sick to my stomach, like, no, you can't just give somebody that. And I get there's a no harm, no foul there where the call didn't mean anything. However, fast forward to today. We cannot keep letting blurry videos and old videos resurface and gain 1 or 2 pounds. Like once they do, like, and again, I understand with time, confusion, things happen. Sometimes it's legitimately on accident. However, the way Strongman works is that people become popular because they were good. Undoubtedly, you got to be good to be super popular in Strongman. You can make little waves and do some cool stuff on social media. I think Patty's social media presence is ahead of his current performance level, which good for him. I think he's ushering in a new wave of concept and a level of professionalism that has been executed, but not as quickly as he is currently executing it. So no hate on Patty. I think he's a new level, a new type of athlete for the sport of strongman. However, when we see things and it's like, oh yeah, old videos pop up and people develop popularity and some of them are very good at maintaining it, they maintain it, and there's a new wave of human in, and there's just not many people that watch strongman for long periods of time and pay attention to the sport versus paying attention to the reality that's or the like the reality TV concept, because it's such a open and visible sport. People don't think about that, but strongman, if you're a pro strongman and you're competing at the Arnold World's Strongest Man, the Rogue Invitational, if you are into that sport of strongman, like some people are football, you will get closer to us at a lower cost and at an easier rate and make personal contact with us at a easier level than any other professional athlete in the sport. It's super simple. It's very open. So when this does happen, you develop these parasympathetic relationships with people. I think parasympathetic is, or parasocial, one of those words, where you develop a relationship with somebody based on an identity that they provide to the masses. You create personal and social connection with that identity, and they don't know your name. Parasocial, not parasympathetic, that was definitely not right, but parasocial, I suppose, kind of, maybe. Either way, arguing over a word. That being said, y'all get it. But when you have those and these people develop these cult-like following and everything that this athlete puts out is true or this previous athlete puts out is true, that's why the world's not going to take our sport seriously. They'll watch it. 100%, they're always interested, but it's not going to be taken seriously. And that's why, and bear in mind, I like Thor. I would say Thor is a very pleasant acquaintance of mine, but the way Strongman does deadlifting and the way that Colton Engelbrecht just broke deadlifting are two very, very different things. And there's a level of, I guess, respect that comes with the way things are done in powerlifting, which I completely understand. I think a deadlift done in the powerlifting contest should pretty much trump every other deadlift out there. Even like cool gym ones like I plan on doing, like I think they should be noted. But I think like if somebody simply does something bigger than you on an official sports setting, and I do mean official sports setting, and the World Deadlift Championship, I'm not going to say everything done there doesn't count, because I think Eddie's 500 kilo pull counted. I think anything anyone's done there, it counts. It's on paper. It's not their job. But things just fall short at that contest, especially when it comes to verification of what's going on, and it's always been that way. So that being said, if somebody simply does more than you or gets within pissing distance of what you've done, and they've done it on a powerlifting stage and you've done it on a strongman stage, I'm not saying strongman isn't stronger, but I'm saying he's probably not the better deadlifter, because if they nitpicked it, the powerlifter who's within pissing distance of his PR is going to win the deadlift show, at least the deadlift portion of that contest. And then you'll also notice with powerlifting, they have really good kept records, like in terms of what that sport is. And that's because, like, you know, you have openpowerlifting.com, or I believe it's is it .org at this point? Google open powerlifting. It's a phenomenal source. But they are tirelessly and always updating that, and it's kept record, and things are, if they're questioned, they're usually fixed pretty quick, but they usually don't have to be questioned. Strongman doesn't have anything. Instead, what we have is reoccurring old videos that just kind of creep up a pound or two, or all of a sudden the weight's listed, or it goes from, but the gym weighed the plates after I left and it actually weighed this. Somebody called me and told me, like, guys, we got to do better. Like, we just do. Like, it's one of the things that always annoyed me about the sport. It's not why I exited the sport, but it was one of the things I enjoyed being away from the most. It's super simple. If it's on the bar, we count it on the bar. However, I do think that we need to kind of remember that this is a sport, or some of us would like for it to be. And a lot of the fans who control the public opinion don't even know how to count the points of the sport. And that's a very dangerous thing, especially when you have guys that are doing things that have legitimately never been, and gals, guys and gals, that are doing things that legitimately have never been done before. And those things are allowed to be altered based on public opinion on who's got the loudest voice at the time. Not saying anybody's ever lost points on a lift because somebody became popular and said it was less than that. But I am saying the opposite happens, and I've witnessed it over the course of like 6 to 8 years. And it's just like, wow. It's like, okay, saw that one. Okay, nope, I was there for that. That's not what that was. But no harm, no foul. It is the world of strongman. It is not a real sport. It's an acting-based sport. I think that was always one of my biggest personal struggles with it. That being said, guys, thanks for coming back. Appreciate having you. See you next time.